Today, we're going to talk the article Relate to Radio Safety, that is, optimizing radiation safety in dentistry, clinical recommendations, and regulatory considerations, published in 2024. This is the content. I will share the paper in 5 aspects, from introduction to conclusions. To begin, this report serves as a critical update to the recommendations previously set by the ADA and FDA, specifically addressing the advisory statement on cone beam computed tomography, or CBCT. It provides updated, evidence-based recommendations that focus on 3 key pillars: dental radiation safety, appropriate imaging practices, and reducing radiation exposure. It also emphasizes the importance of adhering to relevant regulatory requirements. These guidelines are not arbitrary. They are grounded in a comprehensive review of current safety research, as well as guidance from major national and international agencies. The primary objective of these recommendations is to help clinicians develop and implement effective safety practices in their daily work. Furthermore, the article includes a valuable overview of regulatory standards applicable to clinical practice. This covers essential operational aspects, including proper equipment installation, usage protocols, and necessary staff training. To begin with the methodology, a comprehensive search strategy was developed by a library informationist. The primary focus was to identify relevant literature regarding both 2-dimensional radiographs, like bite wings and panoramics, and 3-dimensional images, specifically CBCT, within the context of general and pediatric dentistry. The team utilized 3 major databases: Ovid Medline, Embase, and the Cochrane Database of Systematic Reviews. The initial search was conducted in August 2020, with a subsequent update in April 2022 to ensure the most current data was captured. Crucially, to ensure relevance to modern practice, they limited the inclusion criteria to articles published from 2010 onwards. Beyond standard academic journals, the team performed a systematic search of the gray literature. This was essential to capture non-indexed documents such as technical reports, white papers, and, importantly, federal regulations like the Code of Federal Regulations, which are vital for compliance. This step added 22 specific citations to the review. In terms of the selection process, the initial broad search yielded 1,476 records. These were processed using Distiller SR software to remove duplicates. After a rigorous screening process at both the abstract and full-text levels, a total of 95 articles were ultimately included in the qualitative synthesis. The validity of these recommendations relies heavily on the expertise behind them. An expert panel was convened by the ADA Council on Scientific Affairs. This panel was multidisciplinary, ensuring a holistic view. It included general, public health, and pediatric dentists, as well as oral and maxillofacial radiologists. Notably, a patient representative was also included to ensure the patient's perspective was considered in these safety guidelines. Preferred reporting items for systematic reviews and meta-analyses: diagram of the search strategy and article screening process. Point 4. Finally, the actual drafting of the recommendations was handled by a designated writing group. This group was composed of subject matter experts, including 3 oral and maxillofacial radiologists, a health physicist, and staff from the ADA Science and Research Institute. This writing group was responsible for synthesizing the evidence into actionable recommendations. Once developed, these recommendations went back to the full expert panel for final review and approval, ensuring consensus before publication. Let's look at the landscape. Dental imaging is incredibly frequent, accounting for nearly half of all diagnostic imaging in the U.S. While traditional intraoral X-rays have a low dose, we must be careful with CBCT, which can deliver doses 10 to 15 times higher, depending on the settings. Our primary safety concern is the cumulative cancer risk, particularly for children who are far more radiosensitive than adults. To manage these risks, we follow the ALATA principle, keeping doses as low as diagnostically acceptable. Priority recommendations include strict regulatory compliance and the mandatory use of digital sensors or F-speed film. For staff safety, if a barrier isn't available, operators must stand at least 2 meters away from the beam. Personal dosimeters are recommended if the annual dose might exceed 1 MSV and are mandatory for pregnant staff. This section contains the most significant updates. We strongly recommend using rectangular collimation, which cuts patient dose by over 40%. Conversely, we no longer recommend using thyroid collars or lead aprons during imaging. Evidence shows these shields can block the primary beam, cause artifacts and necessitating retakes, while failing to protect against internal scatter. The best protection is now defined as precise collimation, not lead aprons. Finally, regarding advanced imaging, CBCT should never be routine. It must be reserved for complex cases, always using the smallest possible field of view. For children, we must use pediatric-specific settings to avoid overexposure. To ensure all this equipment functions safely, a qualified expert should survey standard X-ray units every 4 years and CBCT units at least every 2 years. The review confirms that safety relies on specific actions, sticking to regulations, retrieving old images, going digital, and using rectangular collimation. Even as we embrace AI and precision medicine, we must remember that new technology never replaces the fundamental need for regulatory compliance and safety. Regarding CBCT, it offers great diagnostic value, but carries high risk if misused. It should never be a routine default. We call on academics and journal editors to enforce strict guidelines, ensuring CBCT is used only when clinically justified to prevent unnecessary patient exposure. In conclusion, the report reaffirms that the concept of ALARA, introduced back in 1977, remains the firmly entrenched principle for radiation protection. However, the landscape has changed with the widespread availability of CBCT and digital imaging. Therefore, the panel recommends that dental staff integrate these new guidelines to navigate this technology safely. We must constantly weigh the benefits of advanced imaging against the specific radiation risks, particularly for pediatric patients. Our operational goal must evolve from simply reasonably achievable to diagnostically acceptable, ensuring we capture the necessary diagnostic information without a single unit of unnecessary radiation. And this is my report, which produced by Microsoft Clipchamp. Thank you for your listening and have a nice day. Happy New Year and Happy Chinese New Year.